the Guy Ritchie of Tantra. I love that.
Yeah, it's quite a line, huh?
Quite the line.
Yeah.
Shaft. When did that first come in? Has it been floating around for a while?
It's purely Shaft's world. He's got another one who's the Gandalf of Tantra as well, a brother Shiva. So
really?
I think it's just you were sharing around, the bit of a street value. So there's a bit of a street value, and also marrying the kind of neo-tantra with humanness and groundedness. So I think it's those two worlds, that dichotomy that's being mixed there. So he's tongue-in-cheek saying the Guy Ritchie of Tantra, yeah. So.
Yeah, quite the director, the auteur.
Yeah, well, I mean, a legend, Guy Ritchie. I absolutely love his movies, so I was like, sure.
I'll embrace that one.
Yeah, do my best.
Amazing. So, who is Robbie Griffin? Like, when did this all start for you? When did the word Tantra first pop in, and how did the journey envelope? Because from a distance, I see you, and I'm like, wow, this guy's really created quite a life for himself. And this is all, like, of course, what I see on social media, and we've met a handful of times. First at Medicine a year ago, and since then I've wanted to have this conversation with you and invite you to talk about your work, talk about your life in this way. And yeah, I'd love to learn a lot more about you, and I'm sure so many people are so curious about you, because you seemingly have so much going on. You're here, there and everywhere. You have so many events, retreats. And how has that happened? How does one create that life for themselves? And are you living your dream, I guess, is the question.
There's many questions there. Hey? Where to go? So yeah, I am doing lots of events. I think I've done 15 events since May. I've just taken some time out, which is really important to feel and to allow my nervous system to come back down. I just had 10 days with a beloved in the south of Portugal, which has been amazing. So I'm coming here feeling quite resourced and
yeah, you were like 24 words.
Yeah. You've like, come on. I've like put it back. That's this date all the way down here. You're like, yeah, that's the one. Just there. There's my space. I'll be able to breathe there. So thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no, it works.
And how did I get here? Wow, it's such a long story. But to give you a little synopsis.
Yeah, what are some like real seminal moments of your journey?
Yeah. Well, I definitely wasn't in this world. I wasn't brought up in a kind of conscious or spiritual household. It's quite the opposite. There was quite a lot of alcoholism and violence. So I spent, in hindsight, I can see a lot of my childhood actually not feeling very safe, and a lot of defenses and looking after myself. I became very independent from a young age because I didn't feel like my primary caretakers were there. I can see this in hindsight. At the time I was just surviving, which the blessing of that was that I became very focused, and there was lots of drive because I was trying to create security for myself. And I managed to amass some of the things that in the Western capitalistic, consumeristic world, successes. So I had the money in the bank, and I had like a property portfolio and a partner and a sports car and all these things that I thought was going to make me happy. And in hindsight, it's laughable, but it didn't make me happy. I wasn't content. I was striving for more. I was anxious about what I had and losing it. It was creating more problems.
Did that feel quite normal at the time? Was it like your kind of baseline? Did you think it was normal until something happened, or did you feel this like, this isn't right?
The amassing external gratifications.
Like having that portfolio, like being in that energy, I guess. I was
blinker visioned, just like, so although this success that I'd managed to accumulate, it came at a cost. Although if I thought this is what I wanted, it came at a cost of, one, I was really disconnected from myself, and I was disconnected from other people, from not feeling looked after or loved when I was young kind of shut down that part of me. Emotional intelligence was not modeled to me. My emotional vocabulary was very limited, normally reflecting on how intoxicated I was or wasn't. I was a product of my environment. I was also drinking, taking drugs, partying, thinking I was having a good time. Sometimes I was, and often taking it too far. And drinking or drugging to hide or avoid feeling. So it was, that was like one of my first awakenings, realizing that these external gratifications weren't going to fill me up. It wasn't going to allow me to feel content or happy, which was kind of a state that I was trying to achieve. And that was it. It was really about achieving. It was very directional and driven. So when this happened, well, when it happened, I would like got to this number which I wanted, and I got there and I was like, okay, fuck, what's going on? And then I thought, I'll double it and I'll try and get there. And I got there pretty quickly. And again, nothing had changed. This emptiness that was in my being was still there. And that's when I realized that no amount of this external gratification was going to make me happy. And it was an inside job. And I dug a deep hole avoiding that. So that was an wake up, and I really didn't know how to begin. But I was working in an office at the time as well, and I packed that in, and I was like, oh, well, I want to help people. How do I do that? And I used to play a lot of sport and used to be very active. So I thought, oh, I'll get into personal training. So I got into personal training, and then got into, I realized that it wasn't so much around the physicality, but around the mind. So I got into the mindset, NLP, neuro-linguistic program, became a life coach, got into meditation, yoga. And then that brought me to a place when I was in relationship with someone and a longing to go deeper and not knowing how. So I got told around this Tantra event, and you know, straight away I was a bit of a geezer. I was like, okay, it looks a bit woo-woo that. So I spoke to my partner, and she's like, yeah, let's try this. And it was very soft and really beautiful, breathing, eye gazing, slowing down, feeling. Actually created a deeper intimacy. And it was scary to start off with. It was quite awkward, and I could feel a lot of laughter coming up, a lot of ways to try to move the discomfort of really being seen. I was terrified of being seen. It was something I longed for, but it terrified me when it actually happened.
So you mentioned that longing to go deeper in the relationship. So that was that awareness was there, that kind of acknowledgement that you weren't going as deep as you wanted to. So what did that look like in that relationship, and that dynamic? Was like she calling you into like depth and you just couldn't go there, or would it make you too uncomfortable? Or because I think a lot of people might acknowledge that, but just not have the motivation to go and find the space or like go deeper. What was that kind of pull, and what was the, I guess, what was the way in? What was the reward, I guess, that you were kind of seeking?
So how it looked was we were living together. We were kind of co-inhabiting a house, and we were both going off to work, and we'd come back together and we'd make meals and we'd do things with friends. So it just looked like any kind of normal relationship. And there was a deeper part of my soul that just knew there was more. And I didn't know how to do it or where to do it. So I needed some external support to show another way. And that's what it was. It was just like, oh, okay, you can do these quite simple exercises. But it's kind of like the first time I went to the gym, or first time I did meditation, or first time I did any of these newer kind of practices that are actually deeply nourishing for me on either physical, mental, or spiritual level. There was resistance. My ego is like, no, I kind of like my life the way it is, or it's easier like this to not change. So it does take that courage to go past that precipice of change and lean it in. And what it gave us was vulnerability. And I was terrified of vulnerability. I can see that now. From my childhood growing up, I saw vulnerability as weakness. and I'd do anything that I could to avoid the weakness. And now I see how much strength it takes to really show myself. It's easier, although more painful long term, to not show myself, to show how I want to be perceived, show the mask, or show my shiny parts where I'm really feel like I'm great, but not show anything that doesn't show who I am. And I've come to realize that people don't fall in love with my perfection, they fall in love with my imperfections. And that's what my gifts are here for. This childhood that I had, that I struggled with, where I felt disconnected, where I didn't feel safe, where it created a lot of independence, is actually the very gift that why my soul chose this vessel with my parents in my socioeconomic environment and growing up. So I can lean into these wounds because that's where my wisdom is. It's right next to those wounds. And I see some of the greatest leaders that I know out there are so attuned to their wounds because that's where their wisdom lives. That's where their greatness is. That's where each and every one of our genius is. So for me, on my journey, feeling so disconnected from myself and from others, I mean, on the outside world, it looked like great. You know, I was kind of at the center of the parties and I was playing the game, doing the thing. But actually it was killing my soul.
A big piece is friendship circles.
Yeah.
How was that? Because again, I think the relatability of like longing, knowing there's more, really wanting to kind of go there, but like it's very comfortable being the party guy, the person in the social group who has the identity and everyone relates to him in a certain way or her. And like that piece around my friendship circles, do they have to change? Do they?
So the universe, I believe we live in a friendly universe, and the universe was on my side on this one. It didn't feel like it at the time, but I was aware that, you know, I was at the center. I was often the corrupter of a lot of my friends as well. So, you know, I feel like I have a great influence in the world now, which is maybe doing good, if we're going to go good and bad, or at least impacting people in a positive way. Whereas there, I had a big influence then, and it wasn't necessarily positive. But I wasn't doing it from a malicious place. It was my own ignorance, my own believing that the partying and the playing was serving in some way. We're having fun. This is connection, because that's all I knew. And when I started to see another way, it was very hard to break those circles, both my own internal circuit and my external circuit of friends. And I actually got myself in trouble. I got caught with drugs, and I ended up doing some time, and I had to go to rehab as all part of this. So it was it was the universe serving me to break that circuitry. And I was done with it. I wanted out. I was looking for another way. I'd done so many things to kind of break that circuit, and it was still a part in me that couldn't quite let go. It was deeply ingrained. So so that was a circuit breaker. I actually got caught in another city, and got taken away from society. You know, that was the depths of. How
long did you get prison for?
I got about a 4-year stretch, and I served just under a year inside, and then I did about 7 months in rehab, and I was on bail for a while, and then I was. Then I served about a year and a half outside as well. So
how does it feel speaking about it now?
I mean, it's one of the most challenging experiences of my life, for sure. Like the despair of having everything cut off and being inside it's you know, some people will say, oh, it's amazing, you get your 3 meals, and maybe if that's, and some people it is amazing for them, the life that they're living out there and the upbringing they've had and the struggles that they've had, it is actually solid for them. And maybe they're in the depths of their drug addiction and they don't have solid meals, they don't have routine, they don't have a roof over their head, they don't know what's going on for them. And I also imagine there's some level of ego to protect, because it's fucking painful to be cut off from the people you love and the life you're living. It was for me anyway. I was living a great life and we got taken away.
What was that like for your family to experience?
Yeah, it was challenging as well. I mean, I was living in Australia at the time, so I had my partner. She stayed with me through it all. So it was really powerful to to have her there with me and come visit, and I had friends come down, and I was supported and loved.
So it was in Australia?
Yeah. I lived in Australia for 9 years. Yeah. Lived in New Zealand for a couple of years as well. So that's why also, you might not have heard of me, and then I've kind of come back and now you hear of me, because I've only been back in Europe for about 3 years or so.
Oh, wow.
So a lot has happened fast since I got back. As soon as I came back from New Zealand, within a week of landing in Europe, I was asked to organise ISTA UK, and we started Emergence Brotherhood. So it was like Europe welcomed me back with opening arms. You've done a lot of work, woof. Yeah, so.
Wow. Hit the ground running. Did you have that seed when you were in it?
Yeah, so after I did some time, I came across a school called ISTA, International School Temple of Arts. So they work a lot with Neo-Tantra, and they work a lot with the emotional body, with really getting to meet deeper parts of yourself. So it's kind of the education that I wish we all had when we were 15, 16, kind of maybe a bit younger even, if it felt true, to how to turn up in the world, how to clear my own stuff, how to communicate clearly with other people, how to express things that may be challenging. It's a really beautiful opportunity to firstly meet yourself and to get to know yourself, and then from that place share yourself with other people and share your truth. So it was absolutely complete game changer. As far as a week-long course goes, I've never done anything, and I've done quite a few that has deeply impacted me and really revolutionized the way I turn up in the world and the way the world receives me. Ultimately, it's to clear whatever's blocking me.
Could you give some examples of that? Like the blocks?
My blocks?
Did this expression?
Wow, honestly, I think I shared it earlier. My emotional vocabulary was very limited. I think that's a big piece. I was shut down. I didn't know. I didn't get things modeled to me growing up. So there was lots of alcohol growing up, and I spent some time in the rooms, AA and NA, and they say your emotional intelligence pauses when your addiction starts. And if you're born into an alcoholic household, then you do the maths. It's quite, So I was also part of Al-Anon, which is friends and family of alcoholics, or friends and family of addicts. So
do you think that's because you just stop listening to those voices which are speaking to you, and the sensations, the emotions that are trying to communicate all the time, and they're trying to send signals your way, and you kind of silence them out and you numb them, so that stops. Beautiful. And then it just stops the conversation happening, I guess.
Yeah. So when I was in the rehab, it took me, especially with it built up ego and all my protection, because I was sharing some of my experiences, and they're like, wow, that's child abuse. I was like, yeah, but it's fun, they were having a laugh, and this is all the stuff that I got brought up to. My ego protected me and kind of justified it. And there's exactly Al-Anon, justifying other people's actions to continue to support them is the intention. But I was a child, I knew no different. There's pictures of me when I'm very young, with alcohol, cigarettes and stuff like that. So what was your question?
The blocks around
the blocks.
What was cleared in the
So for me, really the blocks were from a young age, where I just didn't know how to express emotion. I didn't have any way of even labeling it. Not that it's necessarily good to label an emotion, but it's a great start. Have the awareness. So when I was in the rehab, and I was still in denial that I was using or drinking or anything to avoid emotion. I was like, no, it's reward. I've worked hard, therefore I reward myself. Or it's to have a laugh, or whatever my egoic story was. But now I can see there was stuff coming up. I didn't know how to express it or to move it. So therefore I would drink, and then maybe this other character would come out, and I'd be this being that I should want it to be, where I could express myself. And I was the life and soul, and I was a poet, and I was a musician. I was all these things when I had a drink. Before that I'd be kind of timid and quiet or focused, head down, not so relational. And suddenly this other character would pop out, with this Dutch courage of alcohol or drugs. So very much unattuned to sensations in my body, avoiding them, and without the capacity to express them. So you knew me 10 years ago, you wouldn't.
I think we get on.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it sounds quite similar to my journey as well, and just noticing where my mind goes when I hear you speak around partying and drugs and alcohol, and what sober Chris would have been like in those environments. And I would have been in freeze. I would have been in disassociation and just complete anxiety of like trying to fit in, not knowing who I am in a social situation. Alcohol was an amazing conduit for presence. That the voice in my head went away, the sensations in my body disappeared, so I could actually just be unapologetically me, and then I just created from that, and it was great. But who would I have been if that was not the case, if I'd have just shown up without substances to do that? And it's so interesting to view life in that way, because I think if the truth was told, we would all come to the conclusion that those things are masking. They are providing some sort of shortcut to a feeling or a connection. Shortcut to connection, really. But is it real if it's done in that way, you know?
Yeah, I really relate to that. I didn't know what social anxiety was when I was drinking back then, really. I didn't have the labels. I didn't have any kind of psychological or understanding of myself or any interpersonal possibilities of labeling of things like that. So I think I was very anxious. I think I was also triggered consistently. Every time I felt a trigger, I'd or do whatever else I was doing.
But
and that was just pushing it down.
Yeah.
Just like exactly how you're saying. It's just like, oh wow, okay, something doesn't feel good. I'm not even realizing it, but someone has looked at me funny. It's amazing to realize that how reactive I was. I knew no better. So there is a deep understanding and compassion for my younger self, and also it was miserably saving me until I knew another way. And sadly, I've got lots of brothers out there who haven't found another way and are either in dire straits with their mental health or they've taken their own lives. It breaks my heart when I think there's not spaces for people to be able to express themselves, to feel safe enough to bring themselves forward.
Which is a large percentage of men just in this country, and people that I speak to, what I see, what I witness. You can see the dynamics and the energies playing out.
And we've got a culture where, it sounds like we're both brought up in a similar kind of environment where it's like
we would either got on or we'd have had a fight.
Yeah.
Did you get into many fights? Was that a thing?
When I was young, I used to fight, and I got very young. I learned violence leads to more violence. So when I was like 19 or something, I stopped with violence. A lot of my friends were getting locked up and in trouble, and it was really early. Violence leads to violence. It doesn't serve me. It just leads to more. So I'm glad that I wasn't in that realm. And I used to knock around I did seasons in Ibiza, so there was lots of drugs and partying and gangsters, and I more kind of hung out with I'd say clever businessmen that weren't necessarily wanting to bring too much attention to themselves, because there was a lot of people running around with guns and shootings, and I stayed away from it. No part of me wanted to get involved in that. And I know some people didn't have a choice, but some people also were buying into a lifestyle where what the power they felt from doing that, or the power they felt from holding a peace. And there is power in it, but is it a power that's earned, that's vibrated from my being, or is it a quick fix like the drugs and the drink? So, and what I realized over the more recent years is a lot of it's to do with power. A lot of what I was doing was to do with power. I had no idea, and it's very subtle, but really sex, money, power are the energies that vibrate in our human being below a lot of things. They can hold a lot of energy. They can either be really hungry for it, or avoiding of it, shaming it, or longing for it. So yeah, I can see in that world, and that ultimately I was playing a power game with trying to win friends and be at the center of attention, and yeah, but doing it unconsciously and doing it through maybe less healthy habits.
Mm-hmm. Making the unconscious conscious. What a journey. Before we move, I think, into these spaces that you're creating now, I'd love to just touch upon, if you're open to share, about that childhood and the addiction that was at home and what was normalized, and the things you had to do and adapt to keep yourself safe. How did you meet that? And I don't know what your relationship like with your parents now, like how did you meet that, and how did you kind of transmute that and see it in a different light, or does it still have a hold on you? Because I'm fascinated with the kind of concept of realizing parents and their role, responsibility, and not getting our needs met, and meeting that and what that feels like. And then it's not a linear journey. Like, there's, even for me, it's been like rejecting it and then meeting it with love and compassion and understanding, and then still kind of swaying into this kind of resentment and just complete rejection of the energy that held me and I've broke free from for so long, and just still like meeting it again with love and compassion and understanding. So what's that been like with you, and like meeting the parents that maybe caused you harm?
So my dad left when I was 2. So my mum, he was a compulsive gambler and lost everything they had. Well, my understanding is they didn't have much. It was like a window cleaning business, but he gambled and he lost everything, and he tried to take his own life while my mum was pregnant with me. And when I was 2, she got away from him, and he left, and he went off to Malta, Gibraltar, Spain. And I only met him for the first time about 6 years ago. So I got brought up by a stepdad who was an amazing being. He was very different though, you can tell when it's your own gene pool and when they're not. And he was very intelligent and a bit older, and he was very stern when I was young as well, kind of very, he's Second World War baby, so he got brought up in a very different environment from what we did. The blessings of our childhood, not having to go through war, be in the war. Obviously our parents have been through it, so there's a repercussion, so I feel like I was kind of left alone a lot. That was this is all in hindsight. Obviously during the experience I was just like a receptor and just doing my best. But I can see now with the work I've done that there was some emotional neglect. They were disconnected from themselves. They've had the same experience growing up. Well, I know my mum had a really challenging experience with her mum, and her mum died when she was young. She was only 14. So they haven't had the things modelled to them either. They don't know. So it's I can say that now with compassion and understanding. But there was a lot of anger from when I was young, 15, getting kicked out of school, 16 left home, and then I was tearaway. I was messing up, thinking I was having a good time, playing, partying, clubbing, living my life, and I had no interest in him. I don't think I spoke to my mum for years. There might have been an occasional kind of acknowledgement, but there was years where I didn't speak to her. And then really it was the blessings of this work which has allowed me to even look at it. I went to the other side of the world. I went to Australia. I was trying to I was running away from myself as much as I could. No surprise, the same problems occurred in Australia when I got there. It followed me.
There you are.
And really it was when I started doing this work, when I started going to Al-Anon and started like I was a product of them. I was them. I was them until I started doing this, and then I started unpacking and these things that weren't serving me and didn't make me feel good. And to start off with, I was like offering it up to them, and they have no interest. They're in their ways, and that's not their journey. So to accept that and to know that they've got no interest in changing, Mum has no interest in changing, and I start spending a lot. They say you can see how far you are along on your spiritual journey if you go spend a week with your parents. And it was like that when I first kind of came back. I think I got to 6 days. I was like, I've cracked this, and then suddenly something. It was like every comment was like fire. I was like, wow, okay, I need to use the tools, clear myself a bit. So there's a lot of more understanding. My dad I met for the first time 6 years ago, and maybe it wasn't 6, maybe it was about 4 years ago, and he passed about 6 months after.
Oh wow.
Go on.
So was that the intention for seeing him because you knew that was happening?
No, I had no idea. The intention for seeing him was, when I was growing up, there was lots of guards and protectors that came up. People were like, oh, where's your dad? I was like, I don't know, to start off with. And then it was like, where's your dad? I was like, I don't know. And if he cares about me, he'd find me. It's not my job to find him. And all this kind of guarded response. Again, doing my best. And then my sister had kids and has another child, and she wanted to know where her father was, because she's 8 years older than me. So she was 10 when he left. So he had a lot more impact on her than myself. I was 2, and she found him, and turns out that he lost his memory. So he was also a boxer. He lost his memory. He was found in Malta, I believe. Didn't have a passport. Alzheimer's. So when I went to meet him, I was like, first time meeting my dad, and I was like 30 years old or 32 or something, and 34, I'm not good with timelines. And I was like, sat down with small talk. So do you live around here? And he looked a little bit confused, and his half brother piped in and said, oh, sorry, Anthony's memory's not what it was. He lives just up the road there, 100 meters down the road. And then I was like, oh, so how are you living in England? And he was like, oh, I've only been back a year, but I don't really like it. And his half brother pipes in, Anthony, you've been here 5 years. So trying to have a conversation with the man who has no memory, no idea of his life is challenging. And I wasn't well skilled in how to speak to someone in that position. And I came as holding my little boy as well, with like, wow, I've got all these questions. Who are you? I'm here. I'm available. I want to meet you. And but meeting an empty shell, effectively. He didn't have any memories, but I'm really glad that I found the courage and moved through enough of my shit to be able to meet him that day, and especially with him passing 6 months later. And so I am relatively at peace. There's still a longing, and I know that my parents impact me regardless, and there's so much of my mother within me, so much of my stepdad from the nurturing that they gave me growing up. So there's no part of me one part was trying to do exactly the opposite of them, and now I'm just catching those moments where I can hear my own mother in the things I'm saying or the actions I'm doing, and just holding compassion for that place, understanding.
What work would you say you've done around that, finding acceptance of what the journey your dad went on? I would assume that you've done work on that kind of wheel severance, really, which is generations old. It's been happening for time and time again.
His father died when he was 2. My father left when I was 2. It's the patterns, and in a deeply personal heart, it's heartbreaking. The part of me that's like, it's not fair as well. I can feel my little boy like would long to have had a father available physically, emotionally, to nurture me, to guide me, to give me support, to shower love, and it wasn't my reality. So to find my own inner father as well, and to give myself those pieces, and I now have a lot of men around me as well where I get to hold that for a lot of other men. And sometimes it's an archetype and a projection that I don't want to hold, especially when the anger of what's from their experience comes through, and it's something I'm willing to do as well. And then a lot of the time it's a beautiful energy to hold and to feel that, and to be able to support someone to shine and see them and fan their flames and challenge them as well in a healthy way, you know, like to support them to grow, and giving that hand out as well, as opposed to just
really allowing them to access that for themselves and to reparent themselves rather than
so if you were looking for like the answer, I think a lot of it, I mean, there's no concrete answer, it's so different for everyone, but a lot of it is time and compassion and understanding. And I've also, like, there's no part of me that feels like something needs to be complete or fixed, to hold that wound as well, to be able to access the tenderness of my little boy when my needs don't feel met, and I can feel that, and that's a gift to have access to that. It's not just about the joy and the jubilation of this human experience. For me, the going into the darkness, there's so much growth and healing there. If I can bring some light to that, to unravel my shadow, to bring consciousness to those unconscious parts, to allow them to feel safe to be part of me as well, that's a huge gift. Something I was running away from a lot of my life. So to now come and be open to it, I can feel there's a lot of vibrancy, a lot of life force there.
Do you want kids?
I, interestingly, after my father passed, I became more open to it energetically. I was already becoming a yes, and then when he passed, something said yes. And I was with a partner at the time, and it was clear it wasn't with her. Which is, some people might say harsh, but I feel was really honest, you know, and I shared it with her, not in a, just doesn't feel true right now, where I'm at and where we're at. So I'm open to the idea, but the more and more time I spend, the less, like, I don't have the longing for it. And maybe if my circumstances change, you know, I find someone and I'm head over heels and it's like, yes, this is what we want, then I'm open to it. I'm open to how life wants to serve me, but there's not a directional piece driving me towards that, which is
not a medicine festival and all the kids are running around and the families.
I mean,
that is like, I'm just like, wow, imagine being here with the family. That would just be so special.
A lot of people that I know, a lot of people I know love their kids and love aspects of parenting, and a lot of them are saying that, you know, really, you've got to really want this, because the sacrifice you have to make, and I know it'll be the deepest medicine I ever received, this capacity for unconditional love. And feel like I'm on a mission, and I'm making beautiful impact to many lives, and that might be enough for me to feel that without having to have my own. And there's plenty of kids in the world, and
sure,
I think I would enjoy it. I think I would enjoy most of it. You know, the sleepless nights. I definitely would be a challenge.
That morning routine's gonna take
all those. You know, I realise how selfish my life is once I have someone else that has to be the primary care.
Yes and no, because what you just said makes so much sense. Like it could be the ultimate selfless situation of like choosing consciously no, like and it's happening, of course, more and more because people are recognizing where we're at in culture, in society, and just understanding, well, how many of us are actually set up to cater to a family, to really nourish and make sure that they have everything they need. And it's like, well, look how we live. We're quite isolated. We all live in these separate little boxes, and community is pretty, you know, scarce. It's there. Like, we're in great communities, but it's still, we all go home to our own homes, and it's still like a little micro expression of something that actually is maybe what I feel is more needed, which is like real, like families around families, and that shared responsibility. That was what excites me and makes most sense. It's like, how much can I get there before having kids? Because if I don't, it's going to come at a big cost to my lifestyle, to my work, to my relationship.
It's I love what you're sharing there. This living in a community space, so it's not a 2.4 children, a single family unit, but a space where there's other kids growing up at the same time, and there's other parents that can be like parents to your children, and there's this community energy which gives you a bit more space and a bit more time, and also it's how it used to happen, coming up as a community, so they can learn from different flavors of masculinity and femininity. And
they ain't going to school.
Huh?
They ain't going to school.
Wow,
that's another pillar, isn't it? Of like, I see it a lot, like most probably listeners of the podcast, it's like grappling with that. Is it serving them? Is it not? Like, how much does it come at a detriment to this and the greater family of structure of just feels such 2 days a week, just send them off. Because it's just like, I see that, like parents like having to do that, feeling like they have to get some sanity in place. Anyway, I digress.
Are you having kids?
Yeah, it's really on the cut. Like it's a real big intention, a really big calling in, because I know how much time I want to dedicate to it. It's like a really big thing. It's been unwavering for many years. I
can feel a lot of aliveness and smile.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Vibration for your being. I'm sure you'll make a great father.
Constantly practicing that letting go also of it not happening, otherwise I'll make the wrong decision. Because if I'm attached to some sort of idea of something, it's because you're getting into a lifetime contract with not just a kid but a partner and their extended family as well. It's like you it's a big one. But I guess alongside that is your work, and it's like this dedication and this mission you've got. Do you have a mission statement? Do you have like that in a bow? How does that sound for you?
I'm not kind of a classic kind of mission statement kind of dude, but just my piece is to support as many hearts as possible, to get the message out there. So for me, there's this piece around the word hope's coming up, interestingly. Giving people hope, knowing that transformation is possible from wherever you're at. There is another way of being if you're willing and you're open to change. And if you really want it, then there can be a life past your wildest dreams. And it's going to take some time and energy, devotion, to look at the places that haven't been given love yet, that you're not so shiny, that you're maybe not so proud of. Maybe the deeply vulnerable, intimate places of you that are longing to be seen, and also you're terrified of showing yourself. So it's no small order, but if we're wanting to really vibrate, to really shine from a soulful place, then all parts of us need to be nurtured and loved. So a lot of the work I do is around a journey to wholeness. I'm working with Emergence Brotherhood right now, and at the heart of what we're offering is wholeness. A lot of the men's work out there focus around masculinity and becoming more masculine, and it's so important, and that's an aspect of what we do. And we also work with femininity, we work with soul purpose, we work with sexuality, we work with money, because some parts get left behind, or it's a bit edgy, we're not going to look at that. well, that's where all your energy is going to be held. You know, there's so much like in the shadow here. So we long to bring everything to the light, to bring it up, to bring it into the space. We work a lot with the inner child. We work a lot with the emotional body. We work a lot with conflict, not physically, but more, we call it dark love. So actually speaking our truth to people, delivering our truth. It's either like, brother, this is what's getting in the way of you shining, and the intention of supporting them, not to like sink them, not to like, oh yeah, you could do this better, but it's like, oh wow, brother, like here, if you can work through this piece, then more of you can come alive. Or what's between us? What's the piece between us which is getting in the way of me being able to love you more? So that's what I mean by dark love. A lot of people conflict, they get the boxing gloves on, which is great as well, because I think physicality is so important. But we like, because that's what a real brother is to me. A real friend is someone who will say when there's something out with me, like call me back in and be, hey bro, like, because that takes courage. You know, a lot of people can pat you back and, you know, support you, water you, shine you, but like to really say, oh, wow, there's something that's not quite on here, bro. Like, so we work with lots of different, and we frame this up to call it into our culture, because this is what it's not intended as a week-long peak experience, but the seed for civilization change.
Oof.
Yeah. So we have a week-long initiation journey. We then have a 5-month mentorship journey for the brothers that want to get this work out there, because the brothers that come, we're like, take it out there, bring it to the world, share it. There's no like, this is ours. So we've got some brothers, Ammon, who do Man Within, and they've got their own stuff obviously, and they've got some of the flavour of Emergence, which also has a flavour of ISTA, also has a flavour of Highden Temple, which is a mystery school in New Zealand, where Graham and I, my offsider who's running Emergence with me, we really cut our teeth. That's where the deepest work for me came through. So I shared earlier that I did ISTA. I'm still working with ISTA. I'm apprenticing with ISTA on the precipice of going into faculty. I was organising ISTA UK, and I spent about 18 months at Highden Temple, which is a mystery school in New Zealand, where they do a 6-week soul initiation course, which blew me open, really allowed me to see places in myself where I was holding myself back a lot. And because it's 6 weeks, you can't hide. You know, like maybe a week you kind of get away, but it's intentional. It's quite a smaller group.
No, weekend you can hide so much in a few days.
Yeah. So living in community for 6 weeks is.
What was that called, sorry?
It's Highden Temple, mystery school in New Zealand. Bruce Lyon was the founder and kind of holds a pillar there. He's an incredible being, a mentor, and it works a lot with trans-Himalayan Buddhism. It works a lot with mandala and astrology. It's pretty out there, but it's incredible. It's completely transformed my life and the way I turn up in this world.
Amazing. So you mentioned sex, money, the power piece. Why is that not present in many men's work events? Because it's a missing piece, right?
I mean, I just say you have to ask them, but my understanding is
just culturally.
Yeah, it's because it's too challenging. People don't want to go there. It's like taboo, so let's avoid it. That's what my understanding is. From what I've asked of other people, is like, it's too edgy. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the potential repercussions that can come from it. So we're going to avoid it. That's my understanding. So,
do you agree?
Huh?
Do you agree?
No. Well, I don't think we can afford to avoid it. It's like not speaking about the elephant in the room. Then what's going to dominate the space? You know, if then we got our say sexual energy or money isn't talked around, then people are going to still. That's where we're sure we might have a grasp on power, but then sex and money is going to collapse our culture. So how do we lean in? We're not saying we've got the answers, but what we're saying is we're willing to go into an experience to explore our relationship with sexuality, our relationship with money, to then see where my shadows are, to see where I start to mistrust other people, what gets triggered with inside me in this experience. And for some of us, people really have a I'm not going to say they haven't got the money piece, but they've got a better understanding than other people, so we can learn from them. Instead of like not talking about it and then everyone kind of carries on however their relationship is, it's like, let's let the people that may be shining, like, or have a decent understanding of it, let them like share what they've got to share, or learn from them, rather than just not talking about it, pretending it's not there. Or maybe bring it into mixed sex containers, which is great. And it's great because a lot of, for me, the men that come to these containers often are really willing to do the work. I work a lot in mixed sex containers, and there's like a little bonus that people might be able to get laid out of it, or they might be able to find their relationship out of it, which is great. And that's also, you know, whatever your motivation is, often that's people's motivation. They get there and they get, oh wow, this is a lot deeper than I expected, and they're in. Whatever we need to do to get them in there, and they're willing to go on their deep work. But with the men's work, often they're like, no, they really are devoted to this path. They do want another way. And if we don't have that connection with other men, if we can't really be celebrated or collaborate with other men, then there's a huge missing. I'm not really going to be able to turn up and vibrate in this world if I'm not in some sort of deep commune with my brothers.
Yeah, the competition narrative, and I guess it's the psychology of us and how we've been conditioned to think around resources and
scarcity.
Yeah, like the scarcity, like that. If you have more, I have less. It's a big theme. It still comes in for me when I see someone with thousands of hits on their reel, and I'm like, well, that means no one's looking at mine. And it creeps in, and I'm just like, wow, like this is still so alive for me. I'm able to observe it and not act from it, but it's still a part of me.
And I think that might always be a part of me as well. And as you shared, it's how do I respond to that? So I see someone shining, like what is my response? Do I shrink, or do I try and sink them? Like, do I start like gossiping? Like how do I sit with the energy? Or can I celebrate that man? Can I go to him and say, wow, you've got this.
Yeah, I do. I just like, incredible. Wow, I just have to break that kind of, I'm like breaking the energy within myself just to like actively just celebrate it and be like, this is powerful. I'm like, I'm smashing this.
Yeah. And it's the same with jealousy as well. And like all these things that sometimes people are like, oh, jealousy is bad. You know, so I don't think jealousy is necessarily that bad. I think it shows that I care. But it's what I do with it. If I start having a go at my partner and blaming her or getting angry, then that's an unhealthy expression of jealousy. If I can go to her and share the crack of my heart and how it's making me feel, I don't need you to do anything, but I just want to bring my vulnerability here and share, then I think that's a healthy. It's because I care. And like there's, I haven't quite got to enlightenment and released all attachments. There's a part of me that does feel and does care, and it's bringing stuff up for me, and I just want to expose myself.
Yeah, I love the word expose, because the vulnerability word is I guess it's interpretive, because don't know, like vulnerability is like the thing, but it's more like revealing, and it's just exposing myself a bit more, just like within my tolerance, just more. Envy and jealousy, what's the difference between those two energies, do you think?
I just want to pick up on that last piece you shared around revealing and vulnerability, because there is like a contained vulnerability, which is, as you're sharing, kind of going up to my edge, which is comfortable in the uncomfortable. Sure. And then there's, for me, what's really like a live vulnerability, where I'm in new territory here, and I'm being vulnerable, which is exciting and terrifying. And what I've learned is, when I came into this journey, as I shared before, I wouldn't show any vulnerability, so I'd never own any of my stuff or try and make amends or anything. I just put up the front, I'm fine. And after a while, people just left me alone. Yeah, he's fine, he's okay, he's got this. They started to believe my own fucking bullshit. And as I've come into this, noticing when stuff's coming up for me, and before there'd be like a distance, maybe a couple of weeks, I'll come back and own it, and it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point where when I'm cracking in that moment, can I bring myself? that to me that's like the new frontier of courage, to when I'm in my stuff, not when it's kind of formulated and I can give you a nice transmission of what went on for me. But so yeah, just playing with those edges as well, and whatever's true. And some days I'm more courageous than others. Some days I'm feeling braver and I can go there, and sometimes I'm in a environment, a container, which that's the longing, that's the intention of to bring ourselves in that place, to bring my heart when I'm cracking into the circle, to share what's life for me.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful point. I notice it when, okay, there's some block here, there's some energy, I'm like feeling a lot of discomfort and I want to voice this, but is it going to be really a messy voicing? And is it going to confuse them in that window of, okay, I want to expose this, but is it just going to further add some mess to the situation? Have I got this figured out? And what have I figured out that I know about? Do you know what I mean? It's like making it's like people being vulnerable online, or it's like, how much of that have you understood? And is it just like, just putting it's just kind of like confusion. And I don't know if that's used to anyone. It's like, go away for a little bit and do some work.
What was if it was okay to be messy? What was if you gave yourself permission? Huh?
So when I've done that in the past, it's just been even more damaging. Yes, messy is
damaging. How
damaging? Like, it just creates further disconnection.
Yeah, it's really important the person you're meeting, if they can't access their own messy and not willing to go there themselves, then they're going to judge your messy.
Sure, that's what it does. It rocks the boat. So it like creates like, okay, this is feeling just confusing for me, and then I'll say something and they won't know what I mean, and I'm trying to explain, and then it would just be like, okay, I need to just rein it in and just think a little bit, maybe go away.
Sometimes that's true.
Sometimes that's true. That's what I'm trying to bring in, this kind of like, it's not like as simple in the moment to just, okay, I want to respond, I want to reveal.
I guess also it matters where we're coming from. If it's coming from a mental concept where it needs to be clear, sure. But if it's actually the cracking of my heart and emotion, then that's a different level. That's a different facet of vulnerability. So that of the cracking of my heart doesn't often even need words. Like, people will feel me if I'm cracking without needing to. Some people might be, but what's going on? And I need to, but really, maybe don't have access to this area of vulnerability. And neither's better. They're just different. And it's, I guess, when it comes to emotional intelligence, it's being able to flex different muscles, so to speak, different facets of your being to be able to be vulnerable. Yeah. And I know that for me, I wouldn't have shown tears or anything, and my vulnerability before would have been very mind kind of analytical, which is beautiful as well. Yeah,
it's important to be able to communicate in those ways and to be understood through language. Language is a huge part. It's like one of the biggest, really. Yes, a body's felt, but like when you resonate in language, is like, it's the expression of your body, really. And when that lands for people, when like the intention behind your words are felt.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you look at some statistics, and they're going to be different than where you're sourcing it from, but 85% of communication often comes through the body. Then you've got tonality, and then you've got the actual words. So it's supposed to be the smallest percentage out of the three. So I'm hearing you, and what's our developmental edge? If I'm good at giving mental vulnerability, then if I'm really trying to land deeper parts of my soul, then maybe I need to go to the messy. Maybe I need to express through my body, become alive, and allow it come through that way, just to give myself more breadth and depth, as opposed to continuously going down one track. And this is different for everyone. Maybe you found your area of genius and you're just focusing on that. But for me, what I'm trying to do is like go to the areas as well, which, because then it often opens up. A lot of people say, oh, you're really masculine. How do you become, like, I want to be more masculine like you? It's like, because I worked my femininity, which felt like, therefore, my masculine didn't need to prove so much, because I've got my own inner feminine as well, which then feels that there's this less outsourcing of a feminine energy or from something outside of me. So a lot of this dance we're doing, a lot of the work we do with Emergence, especially with ISTA, is by filling up my own cup, by meeting more parts of myself, then there's a lot less outsourcing. There's a lot less searching for the one outside or something outside of me, which what was actually happening before I kind of started consciously relating is that a lot of my partners were similar kind of track, and I can see now that the universe was giving me someone outside of me that was basically the part that was missing within me, and that would be it. In a lot of unconscious relationships, that's it. They're that part and that part together, we're whole. And since I started more consciously relating, I'm realizing that, oh wow, she's given me a transmission. Like, I can drink that in instead of her just doing that for me. It's like, oh, and then so I can meet in my sisterhood more. So this, for instance, I think of one partner I had, she was so relaxed, she would go with the flow a lot. But sure, I can still feel it. When I say it, I can feel it coming through me. It's like, sure, just be like going with the flow. And I'd be like very driven and directional, so it worked. Until I started, I was like, oh wow, like how nice is that when I don't have to make up decisions and drive and go in direction, just like go with the flow.
Until you started tapping into your feminine a little bit more.
So yeah, so that was a transmission she gave me. It's like, okay, when people, instead of like someone's making a suggestion, I go, oh yeah, but we could do that. I'm like, sure, just going with it. And like I could feel this as something new, it's new territory for me, to be able to go with the flow more, to be able to be open to move in directions rather than having to lead all the time.
Do you think that's what makes you a good leader? That you've tapped into those energies and you understand them? In your ability to communicate, like that's and communicate from that place, from your heart space. And how would you answer that question? Like, what makes you a good leader?
Thank you. Yeah, we all have different flavors of leadership, and I think there's naturally a projection on all of us, and on me being the way I look and this archetype, and they'll be like, oh yeah, he's going to be like that. And then they meet me, and if they meet me, especially for in a container or somewhere where there's more of a space to go a bit deeper, then yeah, I feel like this leadership through the heart, through the body, through the heart is the gift that I have. So there might be inspiring people or triggering people, which is why they might come to one of the containers that I'm holding. And then there's a deep welcoming, an inclusive heart that I hold, which loves and accepts different flavors of life and is willing to bow down, to listen and to learn from other people in their transmission. And that's the gift. And this is the gift of what we do at Emergence, is all flavors are welcome. And the piece you were sharing around competition, and can we reframe that, and can we just like really see them in that moment and be like, wow, yeah. And again, same as I was drinking in for my ex, her feminine flavors, I can drink in this brother's masculine trait, or maybe his feminine trait, which is shining in this moment, and be like, oh wow, yes, thank you, I'm learning from you. What a gift. It's a complete reframe for life, for all these meetings. I really do believe the soul is giving us these opportunities, these messages, they're not chance meeting, the synchronicities, all these mirrors that are held up to us. So am I really willing to look at myself through this other being? Yeah.
And see it all as a training ground.
Which is easily said that when I'm sat here chilled, I'm having a chat with Chris, and when I'm heightened in some moment and mirrors being held up to me, which ain't so pretty for me, then it can be more challenging. And just by continuously treading this path and expanding the capacity of my nervous system to regulate and to come back to a centered place and be willing to see that mirror is the journey. Really, it's the longing of my heart to open more and to understand more, to be more understanding.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. You are a beautiful man. See that?
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to have this conversation, for over a year, and it's happening now. And I've recently had Rachel Rickards on, and like this is like, it's interesting that this is coming about. And you invited me to a temple space last week, and it was like, it's so interesting how this is being called of me, and how much am I actually in control, versus how timing seems to shape my reality.
It's going to happen. You know, I've, for instance, myself with expanding my business, I've got several people working for us now, and I've got this kind of, you know, some, you can say soul shine or personality trait, however you want to call it, where I've worked all the way through every aspect of what my business holds. So I understand every little bit of it, and I've done plenty of time in all of those jobs, which I think is really important. From, I used to work in corporate, like management down. If you can understand every little aspect of things, then I can have compassion for what people are doing and what they've got to go through, because I don't want to do that anymore, and that's why I've given it to them. And sometimes it's a job that they really want to be doing and it's really vibrant, and sometimes it's not. It's important to have those little pieces, the cogs in the bigger picture. So I appreciate them, and it's important. And also, as I say, it's a friendly universe. At some point, I couldn't oversee every aspect of my business anymore, so I have to step back. It wasn't through my gracefully letting go. It was like, I'm too busy to see everything. So this is what it took. And now I can trust more. I'm like, okay, now I've let go and they've done fine. It's like a letting go, a delegating, trusting more. And even if they do it 80% as well as what I could do, then that's amazing. Just like, that's fine, because then I can put my energy somewhere else. Something I want to be doing, something that can support the shine of my being or the expansion of my being, rather than getting stuck on doing my admin in certain places because I can't quite let go or trust other people, or they can't do it as well as me, and all these other stories I had. So it's a friendly universe. The soul will guide you when it's time to let go of things, and hopefully it doesn't take the getting locked up or the the brick or the juggernaut hitting you, just the little feathers, when we get a little tickle, oh, maybe this is a direction to go to, maybe these people inviting you to temples is there for a reason, you can resist and you choose your life, and or maybe one day you'll come, but this choice is yours.
Absolutely, it is. Let's talk a little bit more about the temple.
Sure.
How long have you been running the event?
The event in London I've been running for just over a year, but really it's a culture that came from ISTA and Highden Temple. I mean, it's called a temple. So it's called the Temple Training in Highden, and really it's around bringing ritual and these experiences into our daily lives. That's what the temple training is about. It's not like, okay, we're going off to a temple and then we're going to go back to our daily lives. It's like, how do we land this culture where we go into deep union together, where we can expose deeper parts of our soul, find our edges, and be in an environment where people will support us to crack through them. We'll have a loving community, heart-centered community, where people can really see where maybe their conditioning or societal pressures are holding them back from their true expression and vibrancy. So a lot of it is excavating. It's like, okay, what's my relationship with love? What's my relationship with myself? What's my relationship with interpersonal connections? What's getting in the way of deepening my connection with myself, others? And that's what I spent many years doing, is like meeting all these edges of, and I was like, after 4 years, I was like, is this ever going to end? Is it just, I'm just going to be going through the swampy waters and just continuously learning about more wounds and scars and triggers and limiting beliefs. And after a while, not long after that, around that sort of, I think it was around that mark, I was like, suddenly something shifted in my being, and the way I was turning up was, I felt very differently. I wasn't being held back by those same limiting beliefs. Manumission is like freedom from slavery, and I didn't even realize I was enslaved. So by going to the temple spaces, you have an opportunity to connect yourself, and then you're in a group of other people where conscious sexuality, sacred sexuality is celebrated and welcomed. So some people like jump into a story and what is it, and they think sex parties and orgies, and really to me it's a place of healing, first and foremost. Intentional there's absolutely no pressure to do anything. You can come and you can stand in the corner the whole time and just witness if you want to. So some people are like, oh, I might have to do something with someone, but really it's not. You can.
Do you have an agreement though that there is some element of like minimum requirement to kind of, there's some like participation, like presence, even like, or
I mean, it's rare, you know, I'm just saying this out loud just so people also are like, oh, okay, I don't have to do anything. Because once you come there, you're often like, oh, this is fine. Of course I'll do this. And like, of course I'll stand there. It's like, it's, you know, it's a lot of it.
I guess that might put people off, because if some people are coming and just standing in the corner, they might feel like, okay,
I will want to say disclaimer. I've never had anyone stand in the corner.
Face the wall, please.
Yeah. Just like, if you're going to do it, spin around. Don't watch us. No, I mean, there is a resourcing area where people do just go and sit, and they're like, okay, I'm tired or I'm full in this moment. And they'll go sit on the sofa and they can just sit
with
there.
The discomfort of what it feels like.
Yeah, maybe. So really there's spaces where we come in and there'll be some guiding. So the ones I'm running in London are 6 hours, and for
6 hours.
6 hours, yeah. So it's and about 4 hours of that is, 3.5 hours of that is guided, where I'll take us on a series of different experiences to meet deeper parts within yourself and meet deeper parts within other people, potentially. It's up to you. And then there's couples that come and they stay together for the whole experience. But a lot of it's fun and open-hearted and just different ways of connecting. It's kind of like when I first went to the first Tantra event with my partner, when it was breathing and mantras and meditation and kind of very gentle eye gazing. And there's also playfulness, aliveness. And as I say, start off with, I've had some people come to a lot of temples, like a lot of them, and it's so beautiful to see the transformation that's happened in their beings. From being very shy, not really being able to look at people so easily, to being willing to be naked in front of people, and they're like, I never thought I'd ever be able to, you know, it's like, it's just crazy because of the conditioning of what I got brought up with. My relationship with sexuality was very shamed, shut down, behind closed doors. Like marriage, like that's what people do, you settle down and that's that. So that was what I got brought up in my, you know, in our English heritage.
Finding a porno in the wardrobe and never speaking about it, and
it's very limiting. So to even have spaces where open communication is invited, and there's tools to be able to support the deepening of that communication, to learn how to express what my fears are, where my boundaries are, what my desires might be. And when people first asked me, I was like, I don't know what my desires are. You just kind of do the sexy thing, and like, I was just running unconscious patterns of connection without even having open, honest communication, or like seeing what the other person might want, or where are we? It just wasn't happening. And I believe that's out there for most of people's relating. So this is an opportunity to come together with other people, learn how to be more open, honest, raw, real, and again, the vulnerability of exposing myself in front of others, the terror, and the fucking deep longing for that. Such a deep longing. So, that's a little. Is there any questions? I mean, I'm sure there is, because you haven't been. So it's great to have this perspective of someone who hasn't been asking questions about what goes on behind that door.
Watching this instant future point, thinking, God, I was naive.
Yeah, beautiful.
But it's great to do that and always keep moving.
It's a celebration when you look at it in a year's time, and you'll be like, oh wow, amazing.
So I'm
look
running
how much
temple nights now.
Yeah. So that, you know, that career path, that money piece, I've landed it. You're out of business.
Yeah, so many questions, but I know I'm the kind of person that if something resonates and it feels like, oh, there's curiosity there, I'm just like, I don't want to ask questions. I'm just going to do the thing, because you're doing a great job, I believe, at communicating. Like if you met someone on the street, and like the language even that would perhaps resonate or land for someone that hasn't been to an event, how to even communicate what goes on in those environments. It's just like on a weekend event with loads of men in circle. It's like, it's hard to really communicate the special ingredients that go into creating such magic. So I'd say I do have questions for the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. That's a disclaimer, huh? Love it. And just on the languaging, thank you. I mean, I feel like I hold quite a grounded, I'm going to use the word transmission. And I know I use transmission, vibration. So maybe there is some of the languaging which is not street.
Yeah. Do you want to use that?
Well, I give quite a grounded experience, or I give a grounded kind of teachings, I guess is another way of saying it.
Yeah.
But when I say transmission, it means more through the body rather than like my mind's teaching you. It's like I'm doing it. I'm being the thing rather than talking about it, teaching it. But so I do feel like I can invite quite a wide range of people into the spaces, and there is a huge diversity of people coming in there, which really excites me, because there's some people that have been coming back and there's some people that have been coming from before, from years. This is a culture of people. It's kind of becoming more mainstream. And yes, I celebrate them when they deepen into community and there's more beings they get to meet from that place. But the ones that excite me the most are the new people. And the people that are really willing, and their breakthroughs, they walk into the space and be like, oh my God, like I'm kind of terrified and excited and jealous of like how people are so free and open, and this is not my experience, and there's another way of being. And I'm like, oh yes, like touches me. You go at your own speed. There's no pressure to do anything. Sit there, allow it to come into your cells and to feel that, and to like see how it comes up against a lot of the experiences and conditioning that you've had in life, and slowly allow that to melt, to know that there's another way of being. There's another way, another culture that we can co-create. And this is my longing, to get out to more and more people, so it becomes the norm. And we're having these conversations. It's not like, I've got to have the conversation. It's like, are you open to having the chat? It's like the chat. Yeah, okay. I'm really interested in like potentially connecting deeper with you and more. Are you open to this? And then having the conversation. And then if we don't meet, it's okay, cool, thank you. I'm glad we didn't start to like try and go into some sort of engagement, and then it got clunky and awkward, and then now we don't speak. It's like just laying it down on the table up front, which I used to avoid doing because I thought it might ruin the mystery, or I might actually get rejected. That was my ultimate fear. I can make out all this other stuff, but I was scared of owning my truth in case you said no. Then how would I feel? Then who would I be? Then my self-worth and all this spiral I used to go on. Whereas now I'm hearing you'll know, and it's a fuck yes to yourself. And I don't want to go into some sort of engagement if you're not really wanting to do it. But some people are people pleasers. Some people have culturally been programmed that they just kind of go along with things, and they kind of don't say no, and they regret things later. It happens. I've done it. I've caught myself doing that. And so to have this culture, to have this different way of being, and to bring it to London is the real gift. And there's other people offering temples as well, and they have a different resonance. They have a different frequency that they hold. So maybe people aren't resonating with me, but there's other opportunities of other people as well.
Yeah, I'd love you to speak to some people that you highly regard in the space as well. So much came up though.
Yeah, I could see you were like, stop talking so I can ask something.
No, it's not so much that. It's just like the chipping away, and the like, just like sadness that comes up of elders in our lives that I can see the effects of quietening that voice and just silencing the fuck yes and the fuck no's, and just like the chipping away, what that does to the soul, and what that does to the spirit, what it does to the physical nature of us, and how it manifests in the body, of how we hold ourselves. Yeah, it's just the biggest piece, right? It's liberation to come into not just a temple space, but to any space, and just be fully yourself and fully expressive, and just communicate your truth. It is the thing, whether it's in a sexual space or not. It is that. As you spoke to us, we've talked mostly about precursor. Is there a precursor to come into an event that you would think is a good thing to do beforehand? Journaling, I don't know what it would look like, but like, is there some sort of thing you'd recommend as like a nice ingredient to go and do beforehand? Yeah.
So there is a form that I send out.
Because preparation is integration, right?
It's official. Preparation is integration. I might use that one. Thank you. There is a form that goes out, so I do get a grasp of kind of people's level of experience. There's also I send out stuff around Betty Martins, who's an American psychotherapist, Wheel of Consent. So there's some information I send out to talk around stuff, and I also send out the RBDSM conversation, which is incredible conversation which ISTA, amongst other fields, hold. So it's around relationships, boundaries, desires, sexual health, and meaning. So this is a great conversation to have when you're connecting with anyone. So if you go through these kind of points, and a lot, it's like things like sexual health, it's like, it's like, if we're not willing to talk about these things, then do I really want to connect with someone if they're not really to even have it, and if they haven't been tested with ever, or within a year, or within whatever, and how many partners they had since then, like, what actually am I engaging in here? And the meaning's a beautiful one around, what does this engagement mean? So you're asking relationship status, is there anyone else I need to know about? People's boundaries, what level of intimacy or time are we going to spend together? And desires, like, what is it actually wants to come through here? Maybe it's just eye gazing, deep heart connection, breathing together. Maybe there's something more sexual, but there's a whole plethora of experiences, a smorgasbord that's on the table if we're got the courage to be open and honest and upfront about what it really is. What does it mean in this moment? So those are some things that are sent out beforehand. It's great to. So I also have a WhatsApp group so people can reach out to each other. If someone needs support, they're available. They're always available to reach out to me beforehand. It's great to go with someone if you know someone. But apart from that, it's anyone as well.
It's great to go with someone if you know.
As in like a friend, not necessarily a partner that you're in a relationship with.
Okay,
but just an ally there. It's just more of an energetic thing. It's like, there's someone else here. It's like you can look over and be like, yeah, I'm feeling it, But it's not necessarily.
But it's common to have couples in the space. Yeah.
It's common. So there's couples that come that are in monogamous relationships and they just want to like be in a field with other people, and there's people that come that are in open relationships as well.
Yeah, I heard that couples sometimes feel like it's really a turn on to be around other people, like, and being intimate. And I was like, that makes sense.
Just being in the juice, in the aliveness of a field of people who are celebrating their connection together, their love and embrace and eros. Really, it's around eros, which doesn't have to be around sexuality. It's around life force, celebration of the life force. And we're doing this work, as I shared, it took me years of in this swampy kind of energy, and then the empowerment starts to come through. My life force starts to get more activated. I become more creative. Ultimately, then I'm becoming more creative because there's less stuff getting in the way of what wants to come through. So a lot of the containers I'm holding now, and this is the journey of Emergence Brotherhood, is we are creating more space for emptiness. And in that emptiness, what wants to emerge? So after we've done a big ritual, sometimes we'll have a little circle, we'll share, and then there's space, and people bring poetry, people sing, people cry, people dance, whatever it is, and it's just witnessed, and emergent. The aliveness that's there, emergent, that's coming through, and it's happening. So I run monthly temples called the Temple of Conscious Connection, and then I run a longer event which varies from 2 to 4 days called Temple of Alchemy. I did 4 days down in Earth Spirit Centre in Glastonbury, and I'm doing a 2-day inner city one on the 29th and 30th of December. So it's at Somo Home, and it's from 10 till 8. So it's an extended period where we get to go deeper and also like cultivate more of a field. Rather than the 6-hour one, it's now 10 hours for 2 days. So it's a lot can happen in that kind of a space, a lot of magic. And it really is, it's magic. This transformation, when we're releasing parts that have been holding us back for so long in life, when we're allowing new parts of us to emerge, like, it's magic. It's incredible. We are creating our own reality. So am I willing to lean in and be the creator of my reality?
Do you sense a lot of fear in the space initially, and how do you work through
apprehension that? And like, the edge. I mean, Fortunately, it's kind of a mixed field where some people are experienced and there'll be a lot more excitement and grounded and kind of know what's potentiality of what could happen.
Yeah.
And it's different every time. That's the beauty of having a unique constellation of beings coming together, different day, different space. Like what will actually be in the space, what will be in the field, and can we listen and allow that medicine to guide rather than being like a set agenda and we're going here. So yeah, there's a mixed bag of people who are very apprehensive, and understandably, because we're coming up against an edge of and a longing for, I believe most humans, I don't like to we over people a lot of time, but we are longing for deeper love and connection. Mm-hmm. To meet deeper parts of myself.
That's it.
And to be seen in that place, and to meet parts and other beings from deeper places.
If someone goes into overwhelm, what's the process there, and wants to leave, which might be more harmful?
Yeah. Well, anyone can leave at any time if they want to, and we also ask, it's part of our agreements we do at the start, if you're wanting to leave, then to check in with one of the team first, just to check in if you're in a grounded place, because heading out to the mean streets of Stoke Newington, we want to make sure that you can cross a road and you can look after yourself and you can get home.
Yeah.
So we have a team, so it's myself and normally 3 or 4 other beings, and we'll support them to ground, come back to themselves, breathing, whatever's needed in that moment. It's different in different scenarios. It's rare that we get anyone who's that heightened, but because we also ask people to ask for help before they get to 10 out of 10. And it's not always capable of doing that, and sometimes we don't know and it blindsides us. But they're grounded. We're not like really that radical in those temples trying to push edges. And then obviously people will meet their edges, but we're not asking anyone to do anything too radical. It's rare we get someone too fractured. And in the longer containers it can happen. When we're doing our week-longs, people will have their moments. And we have an incredible skilled team to support people, to resource, to come back to themselves. So, and often it's on those edges, those moments when we want to run, where the biggest breakthrough is about to happen. I know from my experience, the times when I've been like, eye on the door, ready to go, said to someone, I want to leave, and they're like, are you open to me putting my hand on your heart, or whatever it is? It's like, just like, oh yeah, my body, oh yeah, breathe, come back, ground, and allow whatever that was just to be nurtured. That part of me that wants to run, that young part that's scared.
Which has probably been running for a long time.
Yeah, it's one I know. Fight, freeze. Yeah, they're all within me, all these parts in different moments. So.
You must have quite a big capacity to, and this is more your personal, but there's so many questions. I think you give us a great dose of what.
Yeah, but I'm open to questions, because I see what I see, but I love to have it from, so you're welcome to.
I guess in terms of you, because they might resonate with you, and just more about your experience of like how much capacity you must have to like be in these spaces, holding them. It's actually just a curiosity from my point of view of like what's the process for you, like having back-to-back events or something, and just holding so much. How does it feel for you to then like have to like, and people, we're humans, there's a lot of wounded souls out there, and do you take on that energy? What defenses do you have to make sure you just clear your energy before you go back into your daily life?
Thank you. I have the intention of, whenever someone's coming in with their wounded part or their part that's bleeding, however you want to frame it, I want to feel that as deeply as I can in my being, that part that they're bringing forth. And sometimes people come in and there's a big fracture, and sometimes it'll activate me and my little boy, and I kind of like to think that he's in the back seat, and I'll maybe give him a steering wheel and go, there you go, there's your steering wheel, I'm going to come back to you. So I can hold that part within me, so I can be of service to this person or to this field. So for me, resourcing has become such a huge part of my life. I can't continue turning up to events, back-to-back events, in a place where I'm not resourced, because it will become exhausting. A lot of time I get energy from these containers. Yeah, I'm still physically tired. I've got my personal self that's maybe a bit underslept and works quite hard for a week, or maybe another week, and it goes on. But so how do I take care of myself? So again, this has been a big journey for what I'd label as my feminine, you know, if we have to label parts. But so taking baths, going to the sauna, nutrition, moving my body, spending time with partners, lovers, things that, like, I love dogs. So like, you know, unfortunately I can't have one because I travel so much, but you know, I'm often just, you know, outsourcing people's dogs. Just can we like creeping around dog parks? No, like I get to look after friends' dogs, and whatever brings me life and nurturing. And in the containers, for me, it is this vulnerability. So we do things slightly different in Emergence, where me and Graham are fully transparent with our team about what we're seeing and what's going on. One, because a lot of them are in our mentorship program, so we support them to see it through our lens. And secondly, to expose ourselves. And we do the same thing with the bigger circle. Is like me and Graham come into the circle. We come into the rituals, we come into the experience. We'll bring ourselves, we'll crack ourselves into a field. So it's not like, that's why I say transmission. It's not like we're teaching you do the thing. It's like we'll come in, like we'll share where we're struggling. We'll share our vulnerability. We'll share our cracks when we're cracking. This is what we call forth in the field, so we can pull back the layers and our essence can shine forth. Because I believe that's the sole work of being a man today, is collapsing the conditioning of our fathers and our fathers' fathers and that ancestral line, all the stories that get in the way of us being ourselves. And that's the greatest gift we can give humanity, is our truth, our essence, our vibrancy.
Yeah. Just taking a breath for that. It's potent. As a facilitator, what are your thoughts on other facilitators being involved in the spaces as well? Is that something that happens? And is that dynamics that are in some events and not others? And that kind of interplay. Like how does that feel? I guess maybe it's just more your objective view on it.
Facilitators coming, other people that are already facilitating coming into the field. I thought so. I enjoy it. Maybe it's for where I'm at right now. I feel confident and comfortable in my own skin to know that my transmission is different from others, so they can come in and experience me. Maybe a few years ago I might have been like, are they judging me, or are they getting involved, do they participate? But now I'm actually, come in. And I go to other people's containers. I'm constantly going to be a student. I'm always learning, always sharpening, always expanding my capacity and learning and seeing things through different angles. What I knew a couple of years ago might not be relevant now. You know, it might be my truth then, but it's a truth, not the truth. So I'm very excited when people decide to come in to my containers.
What about the people holding it as well? The people holding the space. I know you kind of touched upon it.
What's the question?
People holding the space, them participating as well. Does that happen?
So you mean?
So the people holding a temple space.
Okay.
So
I see. So we're talking about temples. Yeah. You know what? In a 6-hour temple, I don't think it's really that necessary to be involved in that realm. You know, to like connect. For me, in that time, I will, because it's like a 4 hours guided space. Then we have half an hour like break, and we've got loads of snacks and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And they have a chat, and it's kind of like, and then we'll come back in for more of an open experience, which again I'll guide at the start and frame and bring in, and we'll create a kind of container. So it's about an hour and a half of more open space where I'm not guiding, I'm not on the mic, I've got music going, and people have different kind of quadrants to explore of different energies. In that time I'm kind of just moving around. If there's someone on the outside, I'll speak to them, like check in with them, like what they need to lean in or not. It's entirely their choice, how they're getting on. And then there's a lot of people I know there, so I'll just be kind of chatting and hanging out and just watching the field more so available. And I always have, I say, 3 or at least people supporting, and one of them will be supporting me. The other 2 are just they'll be in the field doing what they want, and then they'll come out and support. So it's kind of, I'm always holding, and then there's also someone supporting. In longer events, I think it's really up to discretion in the moment. In it, like before a container, it's like, is it going to happen or isn't it? As in, how involved will we be in the field? If there's like a touch experience, are we going to get involved with touch? So it's a double-edged sword. It's especially when we're trying to model, and I'm talking about transmission of how to be in the world, rather than you should be more like this, or you could be. It's like, are we being the thing we want to see in the world? And if we are, to not be able to bring ourselves into a field, it's a shame for the field. Not saying that you have to dominate the field or maneuver all through the field, but like to be able to really bring yourself into a field so people can feel the vibrancy and feel the possibilities. That's a gift. So again, is it serving the field, or am I taking from the field? That's a good question to ask when going into that kind of, should I mingle in a field or not? So
I think it's a curiosity. So people might think about, is that going to happen?
Yeah. In the temples, I don't do it. It's 6 hours, but in longer events, it does happen, but it's not. It kind of feels like something we're going away from. When I was, 4 or 5 years ago, when I was at Highden, it was like trying to collapse the power dynamics, the hierarchy. And now energetically, I know it's still there, but that was a longing. That's a longing. That's why Graham and I will come in the middle and we'll crack our heart. So we'll share and we'll expose ourselves. We'll expose our truths. We'll expose where we're struggling. We'll expose where we're feeling less than. And we'll also, expose where we're shining, and it goes both ways. And the reality and where the transformational spaces are going right now, it feels like it's necessary to create some separation as well, to allow the people to have their experience, and for us to sit back and support them, and then fanning their flames and honouring them in their transformational journey.
I guess an analogy that creeps in is like breath work and being hands-on or not. And I'm like, if I'm ever guiding anyone's breathing, like a yes can become a no quite quickly, but it's not a great analogy because they're not going into an altered state necessarily. It's like, actually, you're practicing the no, you're practicing the yes with someone, but also like demonstrating how that can be done. So
just while we're on that though, about altered states, because Eros really is an altered state as well. I hear you. You're right, actually. But it's like we can get drunk on Eros. Those yeses when we're in an aroused state aren't necessarily a yes that you'd be when you're in not such an aroused state. So it is a medicine. That's why I also ask them to be sober spaces. This is a difference between maybe some sex parties and temples. Is one, it's sober, and secondly, there's a collective prayer. It's for healing. It's for the work that we're doing in those spaces. Yes, it's deeply personal, and it's bringing a lot of transformation to my own being, my own expression, the way I'm turned up in the world, and the way the world receives me, and the ripple effect it can have is huge. So often we'll start a temple with a prayer for the people that aren't there, that don't have the opportunity to go to these places, that aren't privileged enough to have these experiences, that are maybe still in their fixed ways of being or old patterning and wanting somewhere different, that this can touch them.
Everyone else then, basically.
A lot of us.
So, amazing, bro. I really appreciate you going there with this. You want more people to be accessing these spaces, right? And you want them to be more widespread, and every city of the country maybe. Do you talk about them enough, do you think, on your social media? And like, have you grappled with that, of like being really outward facing with this? Because I wasn't sure how this conversation was actually going to go, because I don't think I've seen you so much talk on your social media about like the work that you do, which actually maybe in the Menswork space, and illuminating the things that are actually like we've talked about. Is that something you've...
Yeah, I feel like I've come up to that. I mean, even when I first kind of decided to get into this world, and like my social media used to be, around different bars and clubs, and that was it, and I'd be on once every 2 years or something. So when I sort of came out, people are like, what's going on, bro? Like, I haven't seen you post in like 4 years, and now you're posting it. So there's definitely different edges in this.
I want a podcast and leaning into.
Yeah, exactly. Like sat here with Chris, you know. So I have shared a bit about temples. To be honest with you, I'm also tracking. It's kind of like, as you shared, you know, wild card, and then what people want to hear. So they don't get great response, and doesn't mean I will never do them again. But I'm also kind of tracking what's
Shadowbang's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, what's appealing. I do share around the temples, and I've also, a lot of the temple stuff's on my WhatsApp group. It's actually vibrant. I think I've got 600 odd people, 500 something people in there. So I don't, like, it's kind of a community of people and there people just share once they've gone, and then people come to this WhatsApp group. So it's kind of a different kind of technology than Instagram and putting it out there. So I'm very open to
word of mouth.
Yeah, and that's the same with Emergence. Really, the best people, most people come through. It's from people who've had an experience. They're like, bro, this could really support you. I've got this out of it, and I think it could really support you with this piece, or it's just going to change your life, you know.
Yeah, I work full time for Instagram. They don't pay me.
I feel like that sometimes, man.
I don't know how many people are actually coming through that medium.
Yeah,
it just feels good to create sometimes, I think. So,
yeah, but it is an edge, because people have their own beliefs around sexuality and relationships and love, and you know, this is something that everyone has a relationship with love. It's not like Menswork or soul initiation or purpose or whatever. There is, and we're deep feeling and relational beings.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have some really deeply ingrained beliefs around relationships and how they should be. So it really does meet some edges for some people, and some people aren't even aware that when they're really becoming quite resistant or aggressive almost in other people's, the way they want to be with their relationships. So it can really ruffle the feathers of people's beliefs, cores. Yeah.
The judgment. I think that can be the biggest.
Judge, jury, fully out. Yeah.
How's this going to look? What are people going to think? What are the neighbours going to say? It's the classic of like, there's one thing being a man and expressing your emotion, but as we know, that's shifting radically. But the sex is like, this next piece is like, what does it mean to explore myself in that way? It's like, it's even more radical.
Yeah.
Very
And it can be, they say it's a path of spirituality within itself, if you start to delve into different relationship styles, open relating. And I know when I first delved in, wow, so much stuff came up for me. I met parts of myself which I really judged as ugly when I first started to open, and my partner would connect with someone else. Like the stuff that came up me, the anger, the rage, this innate animal that was living within me, like claiming. And because who am I to judge love and how love wants to move in the world? And who am I to control? Is that really love? Like if I've, of course, but on these conditions. Like, oof. So, and everyone's journey is different. But I noticed I met some real spiky parts myself. So I'm grateful to have met them, and stuff still comes up, but it's not 10 out of 10 like it used to be. It will come up and it's 2, 3, 4, and oh, okay, wow, this is coming back round for another look, another layer to peel back that onion, to meet a deeper part of the core of my being. So and this can be the final frontier for a lot of people. Sexuality on this journey, a lot of people can delve into different parts of their spiritual awakening, and then this piece is like, oh, but everything but that piece, please. It's like, you know. So for some people start here, but a lot of people, it's kind of the final frontier.
Great. This has been special, bro. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
This conversation, yeah. Just you've provided a lot of just insights, and your own journey has been one of depth. I really see that from you. Is there anything that we've not covered that you want to speak to? Is there anything you want to bring in that you feel deserves some sort of light shining on it, or any prayers you want to offer to the world? You know, is there anything you want to speak to?
Yeah, thank you. I guess for me, if anyone's out there listening and there's any curiosity, any part of them that feels a longing or any aliveness that came into their body when they heard around the Menswork, Emergence Brotherhood, or the temples, or ISTA, then reach out, lean in, trusting there's a deeper part of your soul that is calling you towards that, and you can move at your own time, and you can come when you feel that your personality or this part that's holding you back is ready. And I really encourage you to take that brave step.
You talking to me or them?
I was talking to them, but I can see you cracking. It's like, well, I'm glad you're hearing me, Chris. I don't know which part I'm speaking to, but yeah, follow that.
Yeah, I'm in, sign me up.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I really understand the hesitation and all the stories. I'm great at creating stories of why I shouldn't do things, and I can justify it. But if there's a part that is longing for and knows deep down that there's something more out there, then these spaces can provide it.
Yeah, you've seen it, you've witnessed it.
Yeah, I've been it.
I've been it.
I was so closed down, and from the outside I looked functional and successful, but really there's a part of me that was dying on the inside. So I'm grateful to be on this path, and I still feel relatively infantile, and I know there's decades ahead of me, so it's exciting. Like, if this is what's happened so far, then the possibilities are endless, creating our own reality.
What's next for you? What brings you excitement?
What brings me excitement? I am flying to Montreal on the 5th, so I have Emergence Brotherhood in Montreal. I'm going to New York for the first time. I've never been there, so I'm just like getting a train down to New York. I've been wanting to go for years.
Wow.
And then I'm flying straight back in. I have a temple in London. Next day, fly to Portugal for Emergence Brotherhood. Then I have a temple day after that in Portugal. Then I'm back for New Year's 2-day temple in London. So that's my end of year. Next few months, so lots of temples and Emergence Brotherhood. It's exciting, and also the work with ISTA. I'm stepping into the faculty there, so exciting to be teaching that work. They've got a huge audience, they've got huge reach. I think they're in 42 countries around the world. They've had over 20,000 people come through now, and it's making a big difference to people's lives. Yeah,
I guess I've been hearing that there's been things in the ISTA world that's been moving, and I don't know if there's anything you want to speak to around that.
Yeah, there have been call outs, and I think that ISTA's responded incredibly. It's listened, it's changing systems, it's growing, it's learning. When it started, it was a bunch of hippies having fun, and the message was so strong, it grew and grew and grew, and it grew much quicker than anyone could ever expected, or when we just weren't ready for it, So now it's becoming more mainstream. People there needs to be more kind of frameworks and stuff and follow-ups and integration, and these are all amazing things. So I'm deeply celebrating the way ISTA is responding to it, and I'm so grateful to be a part of ISTA and learning from their experiences, so I can then integrate them into the temples, the Emergence Brotherhood. It's cutting edge what ISTA's doing. So I'm tipping my hat to them for the way they're responding and learning and getting it wrong and learning and having the compassion for something that's so radical and really supporting so many lives to transform.
Just there's no models for that really, are there?
No, they're paving the way. So they are creating the models, and they're working with accountability and power dynamics in new ways. So it's exciting, talking around blockchain with power dynamics. It's. I think a lot of people will learn from ISTA, the way ISTA is doing things once it's landing deeper in this experiment. So it was a call to action. It was a call to responsibility, and I think they've heard it well, and we've heard it well, and we're doing our best.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. I really appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for your patience Yeah, I know that you've called me into this a while ago, over a year ago, and here we are. I really appreciate you. And also, if you're open to a reflection, I've been watching you on this journey, and seeing your evolution in your being and the way you hold yourself on these podcasts. So celebrating you, brother. Your evolutionary path is rapid, and it's an honor to be able to witness you, and you're really putting yourself out there to be witnessed. You're an exhibitionist. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing here and what you're bringing, and you should be proud of yourself, brother. I've read some of your story. I understand of some of where you've come from, what you've been through, so thank you.
Thank you, man. So much love for you. How you showing up. It's appreciated. Yeah, it really is. And just this podcast is just, I'll be sending it far and wide.
Thank you.
Your journey is it's potent. It's going to land for a lot of people. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, man.
You're welcome, brother.
Yes. Give me a big man. Hey.